How's it going, traders? Hopefully you guys enjoy this weekly Forex forecast, and make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Alright, starting things off with the US dollar Cot Report. The past week the banks got rid of 2,975 long contracts, and they also got rid of 4,100 short positions. And if you do want this Cot Report spreadsheet, it is available on Patreon Lifetime Access. Now looking at the weekly chart of the US dollar here, we've been talking about in the last couple forecasts how strong the US dollar has been. And now we have pulled back to weekly demand. Although this demand it looks all right, but the problem with it is that it pulled back so quickly, and as you can see, we pretty much reacted off of it right now. So I would say, in my opinion, that we have a weekly uptrend with weekly demand in control on the US dollar. So in my opinion, I think it's safe to be buying the US dollar still. The only problem is that on the daily chart, we have lost a little bit of momentum. So in my opinion, it is much safer to wait for this supply and this high to be broken like this, where we then will have that daily uptrend continuing, and that will basically be confirmation that the weekly trend is going to continue. Until then, it's a little risky buying the US dollar, because since this daily supply has removed this daily uptrend, then we could definitely see a reaction off of that supply. So I think it's best to actually just wait for this supply to be removed, and then if we're left with daily demand right here, then when price pulls back to that daily demand, that is where we could start to look to buy the US dollar pairs. All right, on to the Euro US dollar. The past week, the banks got rid of 9,345 long positions, and they also got rid of 19,230 short positions. Now, if you look at the daily chart here, let's look at the weekly chart first. We clearly reacted off of weekly demand, and we did break one of my daily supply zones. But if you look, we reacted perfectly off of my secondary daily supply zone, just perfectly. So hopefully you guys caught a trade off of that based on last week's forecast. And remember, if you do want my daily supply zones, or all of my supply zones and all of my time frames, check out the tier 1 YouTube Patreon membership, where you can get my zones on a daily basis, my daily chart analysis for only $5 CAD per month. So now that we are reacting off of daily supply, it's a little bit of a confusing time for the euro. Based on what I said on the US dollar, it's a little risky to just be shorting the euro right now based on weekly demand being in control. I would rather see, if you come over to the 4-hour chart, I would rather see this 4-hour demand zone removed first, like this. And then if we have a 4-hour supply zone right there, you could definitely look for confirmation coming off of that 4-hour supply zone like that. But at the end of the day, we still have a weekly downtrend, with the daily not quite downtrending, but the momentum is down. So in my opinion, shorts are probably the best option right now on the euro based on what I said. But if you remember my US dollar analysis, I said it might be best to wait for that US dollar supply zone on the daily chart to be removed first. So it might be best to wait for that. But at the end of the day, we do have some 4-hour supply zones and 1-hour supply zones, and possibly a new 4-hour supply zone if we get this 4-hour demand zone removed, that we could look to potentially short on the euro here. Just remember, weekly demand is in control, but weekly downtrend is a downtrend. So it's kind of a confusing time, but at the end of the day, we probably just want to continue to trade with the higher time frame downtrends. All right, on to XAUUSD gold forecast. The past week, the banks added 8,810 long contracts, and they got rid of 27,000 short contracts. Now, if you remember from last week's forecast, I said I did get in long at this daily demand down here. That was inside this weekly demand. That was inside a 3-month area of demand. And as you can see, the trade has worked out beautifully right now. My stop loss is currently at break even, right underneath this daily supply zone. And as you can see now, we are clearly reacting off of this daily downward trend line. And in my opinion, it's looking kind of weak right now, but I do suspect gold to either, if I zoom in on the daily chart here, I do suspect gold to do something like this, where we pull back to this daily demand and then we rally up from there. And right here, I will be looking to add to my position with a 1-hour confirmation trade on the lower time frame to the upside. So that is what I'm waiting for here on gold. Yes, you could technically be shorting right now to this daily supply zone to continue to trade with that downward weekly trend, the downward daily trend. But at the same time, it's a little bit risky based on weekly demand and 3-month demand being in control. So a little bit of a confusing time here on gold, but at the end of the day, we are getting a shift in momentum, especially since we are reacting off 3-month demand. I do suspect gold can rally. Now, whether or not we just start to base out here and then explode to the upside like that, or we react off this daily demand and then move up, we will just have to wait and see. Now, it is also very possible that something like this takes place and we continue with the downward trend. And if that does take place, that's all fine, because if there's daily supply there, I would look to potentially trade that daily supply to the downside, because at that point, it'll prove to us that the daily momentum break that we are seeing is no longer valid. So that is what I'm going to be waiting for here on gold. It's just a little risky to short based on weekly demand being in control. So like I said, confusing time in the markets right now. We just need to be looking for confirmation, whether we are looking for shorts or longs. All right, on to USDJPY forecast. The past week, the banks added 3,300 long positions and they added 4,200 short positions. Now, if you remember the last many forecasts, I've been talking about how strong the USDJPY is with weekly and daily downtrends being consistent. We did react off of daily demand, but on the lower time frame charts over here, you can clearly see we did lose momentum, and now we are actually reacting off of this 4-hour demand. So to keep it very simple on the USD yen, we have a weekly uptrend, we have a daily uptrend, but the 4-hour is sideways. So in my opinion, the best thing to do is to wait for this 4-hour supply to be removed, and any 4-hour demand like that, we could use that 4-hour demand for a confirmation trade. Or we could look to set and forget trade lower time frames like day trading time frames like a 1-minute, 5-minute, or even a 15-minute chart as soon as we remove this high, because then at that point we will have a 4-hour uptrend again, proving to us that the weekly uptrend will be continued. Because how does a weekly uptrend end? A weekly uptrend ends with 4-hour downtrends beginning. So we need to see evidence that this 4-hour chart is going to continue its trend to the upside. Now let's say we don't break this 4-hour supply and it starts to push lower on the USD yen. Well, that's fine, because in my opinion, we will probably end up pushing down to this weekly demand. All right, on to the GBPUSD forecast. The past week, the banks got rid of 17,753 longs, and they also got rid of 14,638 short positions. Remember, you do have a weekly downtrend still, but if you look at the daily chart here, we have clearly lost a little bit of daily momentum to the downside by removing this daily supply. And what we are left with is a daily demand zone. This demand zone is not fantastic, but who knows? Since we do have a shift in daily momentum to the upside, this daily demand could be responsible for pushing price up higher. Now, it's not looking great as we are testing it very deeply. So if we do not break this zone within the next hour, next week, you could be looking for a 1-hour confirmation coming off of this daily demand to the upside. It's a little bit risky. And if you don't know what confirmation trading is, check out the Tier 2 membership. Links in the description down below. I have a full video series on confirmation trading where it breaks down exactly what I would look for confirmation. And there's many more other things included in that membership. So I'd be happy to see you guys join the team. So you could look for confirmation coming off that daily demand. But let's say this daily demand breaks and we are left with daily supply. Well, since we have an overall weekly downtrend, what you could be doing is looking for a confirmation trade coming off of that daily supply, if that does take place. And remember, I will have that out on the charts for the members as well. So that's what I'm waiting for here on the pound. I'm waiting to see what happens at this daily demand. I don't feel comfortable going in long, so I personally won't be looking for confirmation in that daily supply zone or daily demand zone. So I'll just be waiting to see what happens. And your confirmation to the long side is going to look something like this on the 1-hour chart, where we remove this 1-hour supply zone and this downward trend line, leaving us with hopefully 1-hour demand where we could look to potentially get in long. So that's what I would be waiting for confirmation on the pound. Like I said, I'm not doing that personally because of the weekly downtrend. So what I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for this daily supply to be removed first before I start to look for shorts to continue to trade with that overall weekly downtrend. All right, looking at the USDCAD forecast, the past week the banks added 6,310 long contracts and they also added 2,569 short contracts. Now, we did pull back into this weekly demand and a weekly uptrend. So in my opinion, longs are fine. We would probably need to see this 1-hour supply zone removed first. And if we're left with 1-hour demand, you could definitely look for a confirmation trade coming off of that 1-hour demand. But if we start to see the 4-hour start to trend down even more, where I think we are headed is to this weekly demand down here at about 1.31, where we could look for an even better dip buying confirmation trade coming off that weekly demand. So that is what I think is possible, but on the USDCAD. But at the end of the day, we have daily demand in control with a 1-hour uptrend and a weekly daily uptrend. So longs are fine just on the day trading time frames. We just want to see this 1-hour supply zone removed first. But with that being said, it's longs all the way unless we can start to see a 4-hour downtrend, and then I think shorting lower time frames is definitely okay. All right, onto the Aussie US dollar. The past week, the banks got rid of 2,758 long contracts, and they also got rid of 9,647 short contracts. Now remember, we have a weekly downtrend and a daily downtrend. That is very important. And in last week's forecast, if you did watch it, if not, I highly recommend to go back and watch that forecast after this forecast is over. So just so you can see the accuracy of supply and demand. So if you remember from last week's forecast, I talked about how basically price was up here. We didn't react off this 4-hour demand yet. And I said I wouldn't even be shorting the Aussie US dollar until we can get this 4-hour demand removed. And look at how powerful that is. We reacted perfectly off the 4-hour demand zone. Sure, we didn't go to the moon, but we reacted off of it. So if you were shorting right here, you would have been stopped out. That is why it's very, very important to understand multiple time frame analysis and the power of supply and demand. Now we are breaking this 4-hour demand zone, which means that we have a 4-hour supply, or we have a 4-hour downtrend again. Now I'm not going to remove this 4-hour demand zone yet, but it looks to me like the supply that removed it is going to be right there. So I'm going to pre-draw this out right now as removed, and we'll leave it at that. So with that being said, we now have a 4-hour downtrend, a 1-hour downtrend daily, and a weekly downtrend. So in my opinion, it's shorts all the way. So as far as trading setups go, you need to be looking for trades on the lower time frames. So that being said, if price pulls to this 4-hour supply zone, you could look for 15-minute confirmation coming off of that 4-hour supply zone. Or if we get new 4-hour supply zones right here, you could look to do the same thing there, or you could look to trade 1-hour supply zones like that as well if we get new ones formed along the way. So not going to complicate it much more than that. There's really no need to. We have downtrends on all 4 time frames, so it's shorts all the way until we can see a shift in momentum on the 4-hour chart as well as an upward trend. And at that point, then I think looking for longs is better. But for now, downtrends on all 4 time frames, so it's shorts all the way. Just need to wait for quality supply zones on the 4-hour and the 1-hour chart to be hit, and then we can look to trade short. All right, on to the USDCHF, the Swiss franc. The past week, the banks added 1,257 long positions and they added 135 short positions. Now, this chart is looking pretty weird. As I've been talking about the last couple forecasts, I hate the price action on the weekly chart, but we do have a weekly uptrend and a daily uptrend. The problem with just buying, though, is the idea that we are in daily supply right here. And yes, although this little sequence right here of price action is trending up, if you look at the overall picture right here, we are clearly just going sideways. And I personally hate trading in a sideways market. So as far as shorts go, yes, we are in daily supply. You could technically look for shorts, but I wouldn't do that until we can get a significant 4-hour momentum shift on the 4-hour chart. So for longs, to keep it simple, I would wait for this range to be broken first to the upside, so something like this. And if we're left with daily demand, you could look to trade that daily demand zone. So as far as shorts go, I'm not loving it. I would need to see basically pretty much a 4-hour downtrend like this in order to get in short, but then shorts would have to be on a lower time frame. So the USD Swiss not looking great right now. It's definitely not on my watch list. I mean, I track the zones on a daily basis for myself and for the members, but it's definitely not on my trading watch list based on how weird this price action is. On the weekly and the daily chart, it's just very, very indecisive in my opinion. So with that being said, I'm just not very interested in trading it. So I'm personally going to be skipping it this week. But remember, we are in daily supply. We would just need to see that daily supply removed first before getting in long. And I think longs are the highest odds thing to do based on the weekly momentum being up, although this recent price action is pretty crummy in my opinion. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil. The past week, the banks got rid of 2,200 long positions and they got rid of 18,157 short positions. In the last couple forecasts, I talked about how I was looking to get in long on oil around 79, 77 a barrel. And as you can see, we are currently pushing up. So that is the power of supply and demand. But I didn't say I was just going to be getting in long. I talked about how I needed to see a significant shift of momentum on the daily chart. And we are getting that right now. We are moved not 1, but 2 daily supply zones. So with that being said, if we pull back to this daily demand, I will be looking for a 1-hour confirmation trade coming off of that daily demand. But what another possibility is is we break this daily supply zone like this, leaving us with daily demand, and then we could look to trade that daily demand. So in my opinion, it's all about either getting a pullback to this daily demand or removing this daily supply with new daily demand and pulling back to that daily demand. So that is what I'm waiting for on crude oil. I think shorting right now is definitely not a great option. Although, yes, we are pulling into daily supply. We could definitely react off of that. But based on my macro time frame analysis, we are inside 3-month demand right now, and that is why we are pushing up to the upside. That is solely why. That is solely the reason, in my opinion. So with that being said, I'm waiting for confirmation longs once we can get a pullback on oil or once we can break that daily supply. And my targets would be to about $104, $105 a barrel at this weekly supply zone, or even the all-time highs, because I do believe oil is going to be going much, much higher. Just need to wait for confirmation trades to the long side inside of daily demand. Hopefully you guys found this weekly Forex forecast helpful. If you did, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like and check out the Patreon or YouTube membership if you need help finding your supply and demand zones. It's only $5 CAD per month. Hope to see you guys there and hope to see you in the next video.